Have your sewing machine been giving you a little bit of trouble lately? You're about to lose your mind and just throw it in a trash? Well, before you do it, watch this video. Hi, I'm Sarah, and on this channel I teach you how to sew, and today I'm going to teach you how to troubleshoot your sewing machine so you don't have to take it to the shop and ask somebody for help. But I am almost certain that at the end, when you finish watching this video, you will be able to figure out what is wrong with your machine and fix it. So if you're interested in this topic, then obviously keep on watching. Let's get into the video. So the first thing that I would recommend you to do when your machine is not threading properly, for instance, the thread is bunching up underneath your fabric. It might be bunched up so tight that your fabric is not even moving forward and the needle just punches holes in one place and you're like, okay, I have done everything right. What is wrong? Well, the first step that you have to take is rethread your sewing machine. Okay, so let's talk about threading your sewing machine the right way. So a very important step when threading your sewing machine is to make sure that your presser foot is lifted up. When the presser foot is in upward position, the tension discs are open. And this is very important because it allows the thread to pass really easily through those tension discs. The thread essentially has to be in between both tension discs. And as you may know, tension is extremely important in sewing. If before threading your sewing machine, you keep the presser foot down, then the tension discs are closed. When they are closed, it essentially is very hard to get that thread in between the discs. And sometimes the thread might fall somewhere next to the tension discs. And if that happens, the sewing machine won't be able to form correct stitch. So that is a very easy thing to do and it makes a huge difference. So make sure to keep those discs open by lifting the presser foot up before sewing. Okay, speaking about tension, I almost forgot. When you are threading your sewing machine, make sure that your tension dial on your sewing machine is set to a standard level. When you're using a mechanical sewing machine, you're going to have a little dot or line on your tension dial, and you're going to have the same dot or line on your sewing machine. Make sure that both of them align so they're in the same position, and that is essentially your standard tension position. Most of the time, you don't really have to change your tension much. It's like a standard tension that works for a lot of sewing projects. And if you want to change tension, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, you're just moving your dial up and down slightly, not very drastically, because that will essentially ruin the whole tension, just slightly. But again, I'm going to talk about it later. A lot of you guys are probably using computerized sewing machines. So computerized sewing machine sets its own tension. The one that I have, I think it's like a semi-computerized or something. And my tension essentially is always set at automatic. And then if I want to increase it, I move it a little bit clockwise. And if I want to decrease it, I move it a little bit counterclockwise. But in general, make sure that your tension is set on standard level when you're threading. Another thing that makes a little bit of a difference is the position of top thread on your spool. When you place your top thread on the spool, make sure that the thread flows from the back. And essentially this step just helps the thread to flow properly. And the last thing that you have to pay attention to when you're threading your sewing machine is that your take-up lever has to be in its highest position. And you can do it by simply moving your hand wheel towards you. Or if you have computerized sewing machine, I'm pretty sure that the take-up lever is always in its highest position. So that is the last thing that you have to pay attention to. And now let's talk about bobbin. All right, so when it comes to bobbin, the first thing that you have to pay attention to is how your thread is wound on your bobbin. Make sure that it's wound evenly. If it's not, there might be some trouble in stitching later. The last thing about bobbin, it's important but not as important as all of the other steps that I talked about, but still it can affect your stitches a little bit sometimes. So essentially the way you place your bobbin in your bobbin case, you have to make sure that the thread that's in your bobbin flows in the direction of an arrow on your bobbin case. Let me quickly show you how to find that arrow on your bobbin case. Okay, so this is a drop-in bobbin case. As you can see, the arrow points towards the right. And when you drop your bobbin has to spin towards the right as well. Very easy. This, on the other hand, is a removable bobbin case. And as you can see, the arrow points towards the left. And your bobbin has to spin also towards the left. Very easy. In the beginning of the video, I talked about the tension dial, and that tension dial that you can control is the tension dial for the top thread. So that top thread will be visible on top of the fabric, and the bottom thread that you see on the bottom of the fabric is essentially the bobbin thread. So when the top thread tension is too tight, what will happen is you will see the bottom thread, the bobbin thread, come up to the top of the fabric. Sometimes you will also see that your fabric will pucker a little bit because you just won't have enough of that thread. This is very easy to fix. You just have to move your dial to a lower number or to a minus number, because on my sewing machine you have plus and minus, and that's how you fix it. But on the other hand, when the top thread tension is too loose, you will see that top thread show up on the bottom of your fabric, and to fix it, you just have to increase the tension. So move it to a higher number or to a plus, and that's it. And one thing that you have to remember is to not move that dial very drastically. Just move it slightly, stay around that standard level, standard tension level. Now I'm going to quickly talk about bobbin tension, but I want you to remember that bobbin tension will hardly ever have to be adjusted. So to change bobbin tension, you have to find a little screw on your bobbin case. And essentially, if you want to increase the tension, you have to move it clockwise. And if you want to decrease it, move it counterclockwise. When you're moving it, you have to move it almost a thread's width. So just like a touch. If you do a drastic change, that just might ruin the whole thing. I actually adjusted my tension once on my industrial sewing machine, and just like a touch, and it fixed everything. But to be honest with you guys, I've never adjusted it on my home sewing machine, just here because this was secondhand. I would say this is not a necessity, and this is most likely not a problem. I just thought I'll mention this just in case. So just leave it as like a in case everything else fails. Okay, so you rethreaded your sewing machine, check the bobbin, check the tension. Everything seems to be correct, but your stitches are still not good. This is actually very important, and sometimes people don't even realize how important this step is. Needle. You have to choose the right needle for your fabric, and you also have to make sure that you insert the needle to your sewing machine correctly. If you place your needle in the wrong position in your sewing machine, then nothing will work. Everything you've done doesn't matter because the stitches will be off. So in general, when picking the needle, the finer the fabric, the finer the needle. When you have very thick fabric, you should pick thicker needle. Very self-explanatory. If you use, for instance, needle that is too fine for your fabric, then that thread might fray. But if you use needle that is too thick for the fabric, then what might happen is the fabric might pucker. So it might look like, okay, the tension is off. What is going on? The tension is correct if your tension is set to standard position, but if you change that needle to a lower number, maybe 2 times lower, then essentially your stitch will be beautiful. So needles are very important. And if you guys are interested, I might do a quick episode about needles. I think that might be quite helpful. So let me know in the comments. Okay, another thing with needles, very important. Sometimes you'll see skipped stitches, or the stitch might not be forming at all. And the problem is the way the needle got inserted. So in general, this is such an easy thing to fix. You just have to go into your manual and see how to insert the needle in my sewing machine. It is the same for most home sewing machines. Essentially, the flat side has to go in the back, and the rounded side, which is called the groove, has to be facing you. Make sure that the needle is inserted all the way up, and I mean, that should solve the problem. And the last thing, you have to make sure that you replace your needles often. Usually they say every 8 hours. I think they say that because work day, it's usually 8 hours. So I don't know, that's what people say. It's very easy to see if you need your needle replaced. Essentially, your needle starts making a noise, and it means that it's too blunt. It's like a thumping noise, like toot, 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 toot. And if it does that, then essentially your needle has to be replaced. I would replace it every like 8 to 10 hours, honestly, because it's just necessary for correct stitches. And make sure that your needle is straight, not bent or damaged, and that should solve all of your problems. Okay, so that is the end of the video. I'm thinking if there's anything else that I forgot about. I'm pretty sure that's it. If you follow all of the steps that I just mentioned, your sewing machine problems probably will go away. If you still see that something is wrong, then you might need to take it to the shop and see a professional. But 99% of the time, you will be okay just troubleshooting your sewing machine yourself. If you guys enjoy sewing, you want to see more tips on sewing, then you can follow me on Instagram or on TikTok. Honestly, my plan is to be way more active on Instagram right now because TikTok is just so toxic. It's bad. So anyways, I hope that your sewing machine creates beautiful stitches after you watch this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.